Good morning, everyone. And welcome to the developer chat today, April 24th.
Is that the day?
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm tired. I can't tell what day it is.
Sure. April 24th, 2019.
I mean, it's obviously Wednesday or we wouldn't be doing this, right?
Yeah, we do what we want. I'm Will Hungerford, lead developer at Privateer Press. With me, as always, is Oz Schoonover, my boss and development manager here at Privateer Press. If you've never joined us on one of these before, we stream twice a week always, Wednesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific. Wednesdays is the developer chat where we talk about what's going on with different games, usually CID talk for War Machine and Hordes. And Thursdays is to Get Your Paint On with Jordan Lamb, where Jordan paints the models that we make and talk to you about hobby tips and tricks. We are live, so we're on Twitch and Facebook right now. So please, reach out to us, chat. We will answer questions as we can. Obviously, we can't get to everything. All of you jumping in chat right now on Facebook and Twitch, good to see you all. And as Tony just put that graphic up there, we do two special shows a month, the monthly Rumble and Primecast Live. The Staff Showdown.
Yeah, we play a game of some sort.
May 10th. I believe the next game we're playing is Monster Apocalypse, and I believe it's you and I throwing down on some Mom Pod.
Yeah, May releases are Hammerclack and Kraken Arctis, so we're going to play them on the stream.
Oh, sweet.
With some other stuff.
Are you playing Protectors or Destroyers?
I don't know. We haven't decided yet.
Okay. And then Primecast Live, May 24th. That is where we get people throughout the company to come on and talk about things that you normally see, which is normally dev chats and painting. So like last time we had Doug Seacat and Mike Valancourt and all those people on.
Yeah. We just grab people walking by, drag them on.
Yeah.
Say, what do you do here? I clean the toilet. So, well, let's talk about that.
A couple quick announcements. Like we normally do at the start of the show. Mini Crate talk. Right now there is a brand new Mini Crate model pickup, Asphyxius the Damned. Living Asphyxius. This is a replacement for your Asphyxius 1 model. This is available through May 19th. Mini-crate.com. If you do the 6-month sub in your next shipment, you will still get the Bride of Arcadius model.
Yes.
And then Kaito Kasori is available until May 5th for the Legend of the Five Rings Mini Crate at mini-crate.com/L5R. Go check it out and get good stuff.
And there's VIP from the L5R Mini Crate, too.
Yep.
And anytime you subscribe for 6 months, you get a VIP model. Even if it's the last day you could possibly subscribe to get that model, you still get that model.
I would also like to point out that on tomorrow's episode of Get Your Paint On, Jordan will be painting up the... actually, no, I take that back.
Oh.
It's not tomorrow. Next week, painting up the Bride of Arcadius.
Oh.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Tony's confusing us.
Will Pagani in chat says, I got kicked out of my biker gang, which is why I don't have my sweet leather jacket. No, it's just not as cold anymore, boo. You know that. Also, Pagani, I'm sorry you didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I know you're very spicy today. I hope you get a nap later. Speaking of coming and seeing our sweet jackets, Lock and Load is month after next.
I'm not going to wear a jacket at Lock and Load.
That's on you.
It's June. It's the only time it's mildly warm around here.
That's on you. June 21st through 23rd. Tickets are still available. pplockandload.com at the Hilton Bellevue. Come hang out. Watch the Iron Gauntlet World Final Championship. Maybe participate in it. Narrative events, hangouts, learn about Riot Quest. Maybe we'll even have Riot Quest available to play with people. New Monpoc stuff. The Infernals will be there. All kinds of good stuff. Make sure you come hanging out.
I might have a sweet denim vest with patches on it, though.
Yeah?
I mean, there were some of those at Lock and Load last year, and it made me kind of jealous.
Hell yeah. You know, like there's the crew that goes around Disneyland?
There's multiple Disneyland crews, yeah.
That are all patched up?
You don't have one of those? You're not in one of those teams? You go often enough.
No, I should get one.
You
though.
should.
Yeah.
You should form your own.
Yeah. I agree. Let's form one right now.
No, I don't like Disneyland.
Twitch, let's form a Disneyland travel group right now. Everybody who's in, let me know.
I've only been once in my whole life when I was 12.
You need
I
to
don't
go
care
more.
that much.
Last thing to announce before we get into the actual meat of the topic today, the next Infernal Friday video is this Friday, so keep an eye on Facebook as we get another staffer's outlook on the upcoming Infernal Invasion. So, CID Week 2. We're talking about the Oblivion CID.
Yes.
Launched last week. We've got a ton of feedback. There's a lot of models that are in this one, as well as the new theme forces. So thank you very much, everyone, for all the battle reports you submitted, all the consideration, opinions, and feedback you gave us. There was a lot of good information to really chew through. We sat down and had a forever meeting.
We did. We went through all of his stuff, and we made an update yesterday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some of the changes we made and why we made them. So let's just jump right into it. Real fast, though. Towards the Ether on Twitch wants to know when there's going to be a mini crate Razorbore version of Hamilton. By the way, Hamilton is with us.
As always. Hamilton doesn't have his own camera like I asked. because Tony doesn't.
Tony, do you have the other camera
Tony doesn't-
available?
No,
Oh,
Tony
okay.
doesn't have it wired
Yeah,
up.
if you ever watch one of these shows and you don't see Hamilton, he's here.
Yeah, but there could be all number of strange things just barely off camera. Or there should be a person in a green suit right behind us. You never know.
Could be.
One of these days it's going to happen.
So Precursor Knights, where we're starting, right? And
Yeah.
Precursor Knights actually weren't in the CID to begin.
They were involved, but not in the models that we're going to change.
Yeah. Now we knew we were going to make them range 1.
Yes.
Like that had been a decision beforehand, but we decided to go ahead and add them to the CID because that needed some. We kind of know what the testing for that's going to be, but let people use that in the testing with all these other models.
Yeah.
And then they got a change this week, which is where Spell Ward went to Sacred Ward, which is amazing. Right
Yeah.
now, it's not that they can't be targeted by spells; it's now that they cannot be targeted by enemy spells, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, it's a substantial change.
Also, with the addition of the Morrowind Battle Priest and the changes that we added this week, I'm really excited to see Precursors really hitting the table now. Because with the Morrowind Battle Priest, you can deliver them and they can get the job done. Like they can become the primary melee damage dealers in these theme forces they're being played in. And that's exciting. I've always liked Precursor Knights. I've always thought they've been good-looking models. They're older models, but they're still a ton of fun to play with.
Yeah.
And we don't see them on the table a ton. So hopefully,
And now you finally have a chance when all these models come out to play a very Morrowind force. And they were one of the only choices
absolutely
for years.
You
and
had
years
like
and years and
Harlan,
years and
them,
years.
Constance,
Yeah.
Gallant.
But
right?
now you can throw a whole bunch of other stuff with the same symbology on it and stuff and make your army really cohesive looking.
Yeah. Neil Rose on Facebook says Precursor Knights have entered the game. Evelyn Renault says they now exist. Good. Almighty Foon. Now we get to see them on the table. So yeah, they all seem very, very positive changes. Ian on Facebook says, when are they getting a resculpt? We don't actually know about, like in dev, we're not up to date on when resculpts and stuff are happening. So I couldn't actually honestly tell you one way or the other, whatever my answer would be.
Resculpts happen for a lot of various reasons. Sometimes old molds just fall apart. And or we lost masters, or we just want to update things. So resculpts are never a thing that's like, this is definitely happening right now.
Yeah. Constance Blaze, who is being reworked in this CID, she got a minor change to Blessing of Morrow, which basically specified that Gallant couldn't use the focus to go ham.
Yeah. It says warrior model in there now.
Yeah, because previously we wanted it to be warrior models, and previously there were some unintended effects. So little correction there. Gallant, I don't believe actually had any changes this week.
There were no changes this week.
But his reports so far have been really positive. Everybody's, because there's this form you fill out on CID, which if you ever want to participate, by the way, go to cid.privateerpress.com. When you do a battle report, you fill out this form, and we see the results of all the forms. And what's funny is that we have a lot of people that talk on the forums and post threads and so on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that want to play their battle reports, and they kind of want to just quietly give their piece and not get involved into a larger discussion, which makes sense. Because for some people, it can devolve into like having to... Sometimes they get into arguments. We try and moderate those as best we can. And some people just don't want to deal with the stress and the anxiety of doing so. So they sort of play their game and they quietly report to us. So we see sort of this whole other sphere of reports that I don't think other people see. And Gallant was like a 4.0 out of 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
There's a 5-star rating system, and then there's a bunch of questions you get asked, and then an area for people to write in their thoughts. And one of the first things we see is, on a scale of 1 to 5, what was the aggregate score for the model?
Yeah.
And he was like a 4, which is really good. Because a 5 is usually problematic.
Yeah, we reevaluate 5s. If enough people are saying that it's that amazing, then we think there might be a problem.
It's interesting, and this is one thing to talk about real fast. When something's too good in CID, we normally don't see it get rated low as like 1s and 2s, which would make sense because if people rate it low, they rate it low because it's too strong. The rating is just, are you okay with this model?
Yeah.
But when things are like too strong, they rate it high. Like then their report in the box will say like, this was completely busted. It ruined my game. Here's what it did. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
5 stars. And we're like, now hold on. That's not right.
Yeah.
It should be the other way. So remember, if you do the ratings on that form, it should be your overall feeling on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being this model has a problem, and 5 being this model is perfect in every way. What do you want it to be?
And if you're participating in CID but not using the feedback form, please give it a try. It is way, way easier for us to look at your feedback on that than it is to dig through the theory and list building. Like we can't read every single thing in theory in this building, but we can easily see, well, everybody that rated this model rated it high and thought its points were fine and thought maybe this one ability was too high, because you can put that specific feedback in. Yeah. And it also tells us what facts you normally play and all those kind of things. So it's a good way to get a snapshot of feedback as opposed to trying to like keep track of where the feel of everybody's opinions on the model is on the theory in this building forum.
Justin on Facebook says, are the themes on the feedback form? They're not. The themes are, those need to be tested and just reported to us in the actual battle report so we can see what you're doing with them. So before we get into the Archon changes, there was a change that happened to Soul Ward and Direct Spirits across the board.
Yes.
Which is that I have to sneeze, but it's stuck in my face right now.
Sure.
You ever have that feeling? Like I can feel it here. I'm trying to talk.
It'll happen when it happens.
I'm gonna let it just. You talk about. Go ahead and talk about Soul Ward, where I let this go down.
Okay, so
it's stuck in my sinuses.
With a lot of the soul economy that has been added with Infernals and other things like that in the game in the last CID and things. If I like elbow you.
No, it doesn't help.
Anyway, just don't think about it and it'll happen. But anyway, with a bunch of the soul economy that's been changed a little bit and modified and added to with the Infernals and that kind of stuff. Now you're making me have problems, maybe. I do have allergies right now, but I haven't sneezed lately. So we decided that we wanted to pull back on what Soul Ward was affecting.
Yes.
It used to be a much, much bigger blanket on the soul economy. And we decided that with the way that stuff is working with friendly souls and all that kind of stuff lately, we wanted to make it so that Soul Ward protected your own souls, not blanket no souls.
Yes.
So if you're playing an army that relies on your own soul collection,
Clockwork Legions.
yeah, you're not going to get hit by enemy Soul Wards anymore.
Yeah.
And so test that, let us know. We think it's a positive change. It will help a lot of armies function more cleanly than they used to.
Yeah, apparently my sneeze is gone. It just went back in my body.
I told you.
I think it's a mandatory change.
Yes, I think it is too. But I've thought that before about other changes, and people have said, well, no, this is horrible, and you're ruining everything.
Sure.
So give us your feedback. It's probably not going to change back. But, let us know what you think.
Yeah. And I think really, like, we saw a lot of arguments about Clockwork Legions was one of the ones people pointed to most, right? They're like, Clockwork Legions has just been obliterated.
Yeah.
By this. So as we see in chat right now, a lot of people seem to be very, very happy with the change. Let's cover the Archons next. And Tony, are we going to get sweet concept art as we talk about each one of them?
So if you haven't looked at the concept art section of the CID forums lately, I did add 4 new pieces of concept art that have been, excuse me, that have been shown on Instagram and a few other places randomly. And I might, maybe, soon have another couple because we don't still have everything. We don't have the Resolutes. And we're missing the Thamarite Advocate and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And those are being finalized. Like, we don't show them to you early because sometimes they get revamped in a slight or heavy way. You never know.
So let's go over the Morrowind Archon. And so, real fast, kind of disclaimers, we talk about the Archons. The Archons saw a lot of changes this week in general.
Yes.
We saw where they were performing. We saw what the ratings were on the type form, which for some of them were solid and good, and some of them were very low. And they just weren't doing what people wanted them to do. There was a lot of good feedback, and we definitely wanted to get them in the right spot for their point cost.
Yeah.
So, big thing, there's a big outcry for it, and it made a lot of sense. Morrowind Archon picked up Partisan Signar.
Yeah. It was the only one of the Morrowind models in the CID that wasn't a Partisan Signar model.
And that was the argument I made to Souls, was everything that says the word Morrowind on it, but the Archon has Partisan Signar, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
And it opens up a lot of list building opportunities.
And if you don't understand the background story of Morrowinds and stuff, they're Vatican, basically, like their seat of power for the church and their pope and everything
is in Signar.
Is in Signar, and they work very closely with the government of Signar.
Yes.
So they're not 100% completely tied in, but they're very strongly connected. So it makes sense.
So in our discussions, as we were talking about the Archons and we were doing the revamps, we really sat down as a team and talked about what each one, we had sort of almost like a slider, and it was like offensive, defensive, support, and all these different sort of categories. and which ones were best at which categories, which ones were weak in certain categories, and where they fell in different places. And the Marwyn Archon was definitely a support defensive piece that had offensive capabilities. That's what we, like if out of a scale of 1 to 5, we wanted its offense at about a 3, but we wanted its support and defense at about like a 4 and a 5 each, respectively.
Yeah.
And I think that we kind of nailed it here. Its damage boxes went up, so it's more survivable. It picked up an infinite shield guard if you're base to base with a model.
Yeah.
And that's one thing for people to note. Guardian Angel, the new rule that effectively is a base to base shield guard, doesn't have a limit of once per turn. You can just do this over and over and over and over and over and over again on a 14, 18 model with a shield. So pretty survivable. It did obviously lose a lot of rules in the process. So it got Sacred War, Swift Vengeance, Veteran Leader, which was a big one.
Yep.
All that got cut, but in return, it picked up this ability to sort of protect her by this in this shield guard manner, and it also picked up Awe.
Yeah, which is probably excuse me, Tony, you might have to mute my mic if I cough horribly loud. It's one of the things I'm concerned about. Awe is a big change, impact-wise on the table. And we talked about other versions of an Awe-like ability, but we went with Awe because it exists on other godlike models.
Yes.
We wanted to try it first before we dialed it back a little bit if it's too powerful.
And actually, I think Awe is, me personally, I feel like Awe's in the right place because it is living enemy models, so there is counter.
Sure.
Like, somebody runs a Jack in there. Also, it's not going to stack in case we put Awe somewhere else. Like, I like Awe because it exists, and you don't want it to be stackable with too
That
many
was one of the
things.
considerations, is if anything else ever gets Awe in an army playable with this model, then you could have 2 -2s or whatever.
And then there were weapon changes, and you can go to the CID, and there's a post that lists every single change. We're not going to go through every single change. We're just going to talk to you about where we were going with these things and what we're looking for, and the rules that we have the biggest considerations of, so that we can kind of get through everything. And I will say that I saw some concerns about it having Awe and set defense, which means if you charge it, you're looking at a Def 18 model. There are other Def 18 models that you can achieve. I personally don't think that's because you cannot charge it. There's things you can put into it that can boost otherwise, like Jack's Beast and things like that. Especially if you put a Jack into it. If you can get a Jack into it and it doesn't charge, it's not affected by Awe, and you don't get the set defense. And if you do have to charge it, then it's just set defense. And I think you can get into it and do the job. So definitely get in there, get your battle reports, and let us know what you think. The next Archon that changed pretty drastically was the Midnight Archon.
Yeah. The Midnight Archon, and like Hungerford said, we wanted to bump all these up a little bit, and so hit points was one of the things we looked at.
Just 15 damage boxes to start.
All these models. So this is the beefiest.
Well,
no, wait, it's not the beefiest. There's one.
It's not the beefiest.
Slightly higher.
And where, again, those sliders we were talking about earlier, the Midnight, if it was on a scale of 1 to 5, we wanted the Midnight Archon at like a 5+, effectively. Like, it doesn't have support. It doesn't really do much else for your army. It's supposed to come down there, fly into the enemy, and just obliterate infantry. And maybe even hit a couple harder targets. So now, with a base 15 sword with Dispel on it, and then a base 13 flail with Grievous and Thresher, and then when somebody dies near it, it now gets stronger, going up to a 17-15 because of Righteous Fury. It also gets +2 armor, going up to a 13-21.
Yeah.
Then we added Swift Vengeance, so you could get non-linear threats. So basically, the Midnight Archon is supposed to float up with the rest of the infantry. You kill someone, you do the very traditional Protectorate thing of you trigger all these abilities on this solo from killing somebody nearby, right? And then it goes off and just murders everybody and basically wreaks vengeance upon the opponent for hurting your guys.
It's definitely punishing you for attacking other things than it.
Yeah. And so we're seeing if this is enough. Definitely tuned up a bit. It is an 8-point combat solo that doesn't really do a lot else for the army. But right now, with the Thresher and the non-linear threats, this can get in there and do a ton of damage. So we're going to see what this week's testing provides and see if it went too far. I don't think it did, or if it needs maybe a couple more tweaks up, or if it's just right.
Yeah.
You want to tell us about the Thamurite Archon, Oz?
The Thamurite Archon got 2 more hit points, I think, is the only change the Thamurite Archon got.
Yeah.
I believe.
Went up to 10 damage boxes.
Thamurite Archon is in the feedback and stuff, a very powerful piece. People have some issues with certain parts of it, but
it was the highest rated.
But it's also the highest rated
It
Archon,
was the highest rated Archon.
and it's the Archon with a very, very functional gun. That's very scary. So we didn't want to bump up its like ranged threat at all.
I can tell people we saw there was a common thread, especially in the forum, of people wanting the rate of fire D3 to become a static amount. I can tell you the Souls is not on board with that. We talked to him about it. He definitely likes the idea of it being a D3 shot and having that variability because the shots are so strong.
Yeah.
And not being able to rely on always getting 2 or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I think the D3 is here to stay. There's probably not too many compelling arguments that'll be able to be made that, given the strength of this, like if it went to consistent shots, it would have to lose some of its attack types.
And it
lose some of
might
that
have to
consistency.
go to 1 shot.
Yeah, and I mean, right
and
now,
we want it to be a little bit more flexible than that.
I mean, Thamar's Teeth in the right matchup is an absurd power. And being able to move 7, shoot 12, Eruption of Ash, a couple different spots, like if it was consistent, that could be problematic. But all that said, even with that concern, the Thamar Archon was easily the highest rated Archon. And so that's why the changes you saw were minor, and we just bumped up the survivability a little bit to be in line with the other 8-point solos based on what they were doing.
Yeah.
Next up would be the Void Archon. Now, we've been seeing a lot of feedback about the Void Archon.
The Void Archon only got the Soul Ward change, so effectively nothing really changed specifically on the Void Archon.
And there's been a lot of talk about Void Archons and where it might fit in different themes. That's definitely something that we as a team are looking at. So just let you know, that doesn't guarantee anything's going to happen, but we're definitely paying attention to it. And then the battle reports have been interesting. Some people have had experiences with the Void Archon where they said it didn't do too much, and then somewhere like it ran roughshod across their opponent.
Yeah, well, in the feedback forum, we had one person that said, "This is exactly what I want in my army." I can't remember what faction they're playing.
Yeah.
But like it does everything exactly the way I want it to. This is great. And then we've got other feedback that's like, I don't know what this thing does. I don't know exactly how to use it. So just keep playing it and keep giving us feedback.
Yeah, Peyton Priest on Facebook says, was there a reason for no changes here? And that's right now because the battle report data we're getting is very inconclusive.
Yeah.
Whereas everything else we were able to read and make some really good conclusions based on the information we got. This one's sort of all over the place. So we need more data. So if you want to see things change with the Void Archon, if you're not happy with it, if you think it's too strong, this is the week to get your battle reports in. And this is the one I probably do a call out for, that we need to see the most. This and the Dunian one, we would like to see the most games played with.
Yeah.
Seanster 3000 on Twitch. I saw a couple other people. Acrosar asked for partisan convergence. I've also had people email me and message me on Facebook about partisan scorn. Can't say that's going to happen, but it's a consideration that we will be discussing internally. That comes down to more like narrative, like discussions of whether or not it makes sense.
Yeah. So the Primal Archon is now the beefiest of all the Archons.
He has 18 damage boxes.
He has 18 damage boxes.
And that's really all that changed on him. The reason the Primal Archon only went up in damage boxes is because outside the Thamarite Archon was the highest rated. The Primal Archon was the second highest rated. People just like this thing from the battle report and the feedback, the type form we're seeing. Countercharge AoEs are strong. We saw a couple people say countercharge knockdown AoEs don't matter because a tournament level player will never use them.
Sure.
That's fine. Like not everybody plays that way, right?
Yeah. But the other important thing to think about is it's a question you ask your opponent.
Right. Even if a high caliber player will never fall for it effectively.
Yeah.
Which even if somebody who's not a tournament level player will play it a couple times and then not get hit by it again, it still forces them to have a certain order of operations or an area of denial where they can't go stand or they have to do something specific. And that's still doing its job. Even if it never actually countercharges, that rule still has an impact on the game. So
the denial is just as valuable as anything else.
Yeah. There's a lot of chat
Doug
going
is
on.
talking in Twitch chat about the narrative of the Void Archon and how like some of these Archons are more amorphously conceptual than the others, and the Void Archon is from a place that no one really understands. So, it's working with the score and it's working with the convergence, but we don't really know you don't really know, and the people don't really know exactly where it's coming from and what its goals are, and even who sent it to a certain extent. The Dunya Archon got some bigger overhauling.
Yes, the Dunya Archon costs 6 points now.
It also has 10 hit points, so we bumped its health up a little bit as well.
Yes, but when we were looking at the sliders, this one's like supposed to be maxed out support and almost minimum like offense and survivability, and not minimum survivability, but minimum offense. Like this is supposed to be far more of the supporty Archon. So picking up Serenity, big deal. Like that's going to be really, really helpful because it is a partisan troll. So when you're playing in trolls, that's an access to Serenity. And when you're playing minions and you bring the Dunya Archon, that's one. Minions do not have a lot of Fury management.
Yeah.
And Serenity is a pretty decent one. Then the Threads of Life changed from being, my brain just went dead, martyrdom.
Yeah.
To allowing the Archon to be hit instead.
Yeah.
Because the martyrdom was proving to actually be problematic in some very strange matchups, and we wanted to tone it down a little bit. But in toning down, we also dropped the points on the Dunya Archon.
Yeah. And it doesn't work exactly like Shield Guard, but it works kind of like Shield Guard. It's a random amount of damage instead of the actual damage roll hitting the Dunya Archon.
Yeah. And then Mother's Embrace, I think, is an excellent ability that when something dies in this thing's command range, which its command range is 10, you have a global heal anywhere on the board for D3 damage points. Very similar to what the Marwan Archon had started with, but it obviously made far more sense on the Dunya Archon and what it was doing. So,
and we gave it Righteous Fury because it doesn't like it when the people that it's protecting get damaged.
Righteous Fury, I will admit to me, and I brought this up in our internal discussion yesterday, was a weird one.
Yeah.
Because this is definitely not the most offensive one. I could see the ability to reposition. To me, it's like a triggered reposition, more than I'm trying to get in there and to attack you. More just I need to be over here or get in this different place. Like I imagine this thing's gonna be hanging on the back line, taking hits for people when it needs to, and then just healing your frontline troops or beasts as they move forward, and the infantry and like the chaff get destroyed. Yeah. So, like the Void Archon, kind of putting the call out for the Dunya Archon. Is this piece being useful? Is it worth it 6 points in the list you're playing it? Is it supporting the army? Is it getting work done? Is it too annoying? Or is the healing factor and the ability to Shield Guard throwing people off? I don't think it'll be too much, but definitely let us know what you think you can do.
And don't give us feedback on this, but I don't know if it has enough squirrels.
I mean, are the squirrels? Well, we don't know, but if the squirrels are separate bits,
I hope at least one squirrel is a separate bit.
We need to call production right now.
Squirrels on everything.
Squirrels on everything. Moving off the Archons onto Alexia the Undying. The changes she got this week was really, really minor. Passive Necromancy got a text update so that she couldn't turn herself into a thrall when she died.
Yeah.
That was it.
Which is funny, but...
It is funny.
But we don't need that.
So for Alexia, feedback-wise, it's very positive right now from everybody that we've been seeing. She got no other changes because for her point value and what she's doing, people seem very pleased. That doesn't mean that she's locked by any means. We're definitely keeping an eye out, but we saw no reason to make any change whatsoever. The Hermit of Hingehold changed, though.
The Hermit did change some.
Yeah. So there were some things done here.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask me, there's probably going to be some nerfs.
Sure, but we were worried that the Hermit wasn't applicable to enough different matchups.
Yeah.
Because the Hermit was very tied into interacting with Infernals, both in their armies and against them. Yes. But this is the model that comes with the Oblivion book. Everybody's going to get one of these models. And it works for literally all the factions. So we wanted it to be more applicable in more games. We didn't want it to just be an answer for fighting against Infernals. We wanted it to be something more.
Grey Lord Dave says, is he an elf? Yes, the Hermit is an elf.
Yes, he's an mad Iosian priest.
Yes. So what are we going for here? What we're going for is an Eris 1 in Mark 1 level of use.
Maybe not that power level, but that applicability.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be a model that at any one of almost any faction can grab and find a use for. And to do so, it has to have a major impact. So we pushed the envelope this week.
Which we can always dial back a bit.
And you can imagine it's going to get dialed back.
Yeah.
But one of the questions that get brought up is if everyone has access to the same ability, and obviously what we're talking about here is Word of Ruin. Not Word of Ruin, I'm sorry. Prayers of Annihilation.
Yeah.
Which gives Master of Ruin, which is the King of Nothing's ability that everybody within 5 inches gets -2 armor, friendly and enemy.
Yep.
That's huge. But everyone gets access to it. So everyone has an access of this bubble of Dark Shroud.
Yeah.
Is it too much? It's probably going to get dialed back. Should it become an action so that he can't run and do it? Probably.
Should it become a passive ability that is just always turned on, so you have to deal with it in a positive and a negative way, like the King of Nothing?
Probably not.
That was another conversation we had.
Yeah, because he does. If that was the case, maybe he needs to lose Ancient Shroud. There's a lot of stuff
Yes.
going on.
Yeah.
So, in terms of call-outs of models that we want to see heavily tested, Void Archon, Dunya Archon, and definitely the Hermit.
Yeah.
I would expect changes to the Hermit before any other major update. Like you might even see a minor update of just the Hermit based on what we're seeing. But we are looking to get a very strong model that every faction has equal access to.
Yeah.
And that is good in dang near any list you bring it in.
Yeah.
So it will be a strong piece no matter what. But obviously right now, it's probably a little bit too strong.
Gabriel Throne, always think
Do we
that
have
word is
concept
Thorn.
art for Gabriel Throne yet?
We do. He was one of the things we added. The Dunya Archon, the Hermit, the Grandmaster.
Look at him.
Look at him. He's a,
Boy needs a new cape.
yeah, but maybe it's got sentimental value.
And just looking at chat, a lot of people talking about the Hermit. Randy Lamb says that we don't read chat. Randy, we definitely read chat. There's just
Yeah.
a lot going on right now.
We don't always respond to chat, but we always read it.
Also, the chat scrolls really fast, and it's far away. We've got a lot to talk about, so promise you, we're not ignoring you. Grandmaster Gabriel Throne basically got to change because giving Divine Inspiration to Striker 2 was not okay.
Yeah.
It was one of many examples that we saw in the feedback and based off the battle reports, but that was that was one of many. So that got changed down to Stir the Blood, which gives the model +2 to its first melee attack damage roll that turn, instead of Sign's Importance for all your melee attacks for the entirety of the turn.
Yeah.
JP Great One says Divine Inspiration is okay. Sorry, it looked like it was a little too strong from the battle reports and basically what everyone was saying, so we did have to cut it. Let's see what people think of this ability. But aside from that, Gabriel Throne was really highly rated.
Yeah. And we adjusted his points a little bit.
Yeah, he went down.
Yeah, down,
from 8 to
down
7.
From 8 to 7.
So what we're looking for this week, is he still worth the 7 points? You know, he went down. Are people able to get good use out of Stir the Blood? Is that a useful slot as one of his battle plans?
Yep.
I mean, he has Tactician Morrowind and a lot else going on, so I feel like this is a pretty solid Gravis-style solo. But let us know if he's just not doing enough for you.
So the next model is the Thamorite Advocate, which we don't have concept art for, Tony. So don't flip to anything random and confuse people. Hopefully we'll get it soon. If it doesn't come in until after the CID, then it'll be on Instagram or an Insider or whatever. So don't worry, you'll see it probably soonish.
Yep.
This was an important change that was limited because it was only one ability. We cut Fell Curse and we gave it Sigil of Power, which Sigil of Power just lets you make somebody's weapon magical. Because we were worried about the power level of this model. So we gave it something useful, but not really, really big.
I wouldn't say that we're married to Sigil of Power,
We're not married to Sigil of Power.
but the FA 3 cost sucker model that had Entropic Force on a stick effectively. We didn't see a lot of feedback on that necessarily in the TNL section of CID, but again, in the type form, there were some serious concerns. And so we decided to tone that back a little bit and give it another ability that's just generally useful. Early feedback so far has been people are not happy that it has Sigil of Power.
Sure.
But again, we need people to go play test with it and let us know what they're able to do with its other abilities as well. You know, Barring the Gate, Hexbolt, and if they're still getting use out of it. And remember that it is a 3-point solo, so we don't need to be blowing up the world necessarily. But is it still viable and worth your points?
Yeah.
So people have been kind of squeezing this in where they can, so I expect we'll see a fair number of battle reports with it added in there.
The Resolutes and the Vigilance, they had some special abilities on their weapons, kind of moved around. I don't see them on my notes because the notes are in a weird order. And one of my pages is upside down because of Hungerford. Anyway, so we don't have art for the Resolutes yet, but we have art for the Vigilance. And the Vigilance gained Blessed on their weapons, and the Resolutes lost Blessed on their weapons.
Yep.
And then Execrator, which is how that word is pronounced.
Is it? We finally have confirmation that
No,
it's Execrator?
I confirmed it last time. I just wanted to reconfirm it, that some people think it's a different word than it is.
Yeah.
But Execrator is only on the Resolute's weapons now, not both the weapons, or only the Vigilance like it was before. I can't remember.
Yeah. This is a minor change that differentiate the two units.
Yeah.
And so nothing big here. The results we've been getting again through the type form have been very good. Both of these units were around 3.5 to a 4, if I remember correctly. And the text in the feedback fields was everybody was like, "Love these units. They're doing great. Can't wait to play them." So we're not looking for major changes. The main concern we saw was that they were very, very similar in certain aspects. So we made that differentiation, and we'll see how that plays out.
Yep. So Glenn
Cormier.
Yeah. Cormier? I don't know. Doug, tell us how to pronounce that name.
Cormier.
He pronounces it the way that Louisiana people pronounce it. I pronounce it the way I want to. Anyway, Glenn got a change to her gun. We talked about more changes to the gun, but we just did this little one. Banish on the gun is now 1 inch place effect instead of D3 plus 1.
Yes.
Like it was before. Now, we also talked about adjusting the range of the gun, but we didn't do that yet. So that's another thing.
It's a slight tweak to what was one of the most ridiculous guns we had ever printed.
It was.
In the first CID, I even said that I was unhappy with that gun and thought it needed to be toned down. Right now, effectively, it's a gun that lets you turn around a model. I mean, it's move up 7, range 12, 19-inch threat, shoot, and TK somebody an inch forward, but then turn their booty to the wind so everybody can get the back strikes in on them. I still think that's really, really strong. It is a 6-point model, but it's a 6-point stealth model with tough that does a lot of other things, and then also just has like dodge and sprint, and there's just a lot going on. So Glenn is one that I'm still concerned about. Is possibly too strong and might need some more tweaks down. So we'll see what the battle reports are. The people that played her, definitely that first version of Vanish was sort of tainting the data we were getting because it was just so strong. It was so absolutely ridiculous. So we'll see what this tone version does. We'll see if the tone version is still too strong and if maybe a couple of aspects of Glenn need to be pulled back a little further, or maybe the points go up and some other stuff changes. We've got a lot of dials we could tweak here.
The Legion of Lost Souls got no changes this week.
I don't believe the Legion got any changes.
Yeah, there's nothing green on the sheet, so they didn't get any changes. We're still looking at them, considering things, reading feedback. Please give us more feedback. We don't have art on them either.
And finally, the Morrowind Battle Priest got some really interesting changes. First off, lost
and a piece of art.
Oh, he's so grimy.
That
dude has seen some stuff.
Yeah, he's emphasis on the battle, not emphasis on the priest.
See, Mike Urban on Facebook just says that the banish ability should trigger on damage. Mike, I really like that idea from Glenn's gun, that instead of it being on hit, it's on damage, because then the things you really don't want to pull away, like you're trying to shoot like a battle engine and turn it around, like it's a PAL 12 gun. She has no boost mechanic. Even a lot of casters, that's going to help protect, but it does let certain other things, you get to move them out of place, maybe like some multi-wound infantry that you can damage on average, at least one point in there, and shift them out of place. So Mike, that's a great piece of feedback. I super like that.
Yeah.
We might go with that. But yeah, look how scruffy this scruffy boy is. He's all like, worship my God. I'll take a bullet for you, whatever. Just please kill me.
I don't know if he's that morose.
He is. Like, there's straight up like whiskey in that little side pouch, and he's just like, "Who we going to war with? Us pigs riding gremlins? I don't give a."
So yeah, we were very, very, very concerned that this model was overboard in the first version.
Granted True Sight.
Giving True Sight to anything you could attach him to. So we dialed him back significantly and made his role basically partially escorting other people across the table.
I love what we've done with him now. Like, picking up Shield Guard on a weapon attachment that we can add to these units, especially for Precursor Knights, is awesome. And he has Shield Guard, and then he has a Righteous Fury, so if you're bringing multiples, like, there's so many different modes you can play him. With Righteous Fury, if somebody dies, he hits better, right? Or you keep the Precursors safe, or maybe like the Precursor Officer you need to keep safe, or whatever units you're putting him. I think the Morrowind Battle Priest is great in a lot of units, but I think really in Precursors, he's super strong. So I'm actually really excited about the changes, and I think that this is a great model. I think it's point costed right. I think it's a super useful weapon attachment, and I like this style of weapon attachment. Like, it's not just a big gun or something like that. It just does a lot of cool things that apply to different units and help you deliver. And I think it's going to bring up a lot of units in Signar and Mercs that have had problems getting there before.
Yeah. And also, there has been feedback about this guy's carrying all kinds of weapons and only has one attack. That's a thing we do. We don't normally do it with people carrying melee weapons, but Crow's Cutthroats have multiple weapons and only one attack. And things with claws often have one attack but multiple weapons. So this guy's just prepared in case one of his weapons breaks.
Yeah. So super happy with this, but of course let us know what you think in your battle reports, and we'll see what happens from there. Aside from that, there were some theme force changes.
There were some.
Changes. Let's get to those because they're not on the other sheet.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, in our notes we have Soul Ward changing on different models, like the Soul Stalker, Direct Spirits changing on Zals, things like that, because that's all going to get approached. Also, everyone should note that telemetry changed.
Yeah, that telemetry on the Hermit is not unique now. It's just telemetry across the board changed to friendly, not friendly faction.
Yep.
So the Sacral Vault is going to get that bump, too.
So the three theme forces, we had a long talk about Hearts of Darkness. And we talked about the casters that are in it, what they're doing, the feedback based off of them, and also noticed that nobody was taking Infernals.
We wanted to make sure that there was a benefit in that theme force to including Infernal models and not just saying, I'm going to play Signar models in my Infernal theme force.
Right, because without a reason to play with Infernals, this theme force is Iron Gauntlet Season 1, the theme force.
Yes.
I get to show up and play Signar Khador, but I'm technically an Infernals player. That's confusing and weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
So adding Warjacks in the army game Accumulator Soulless means that specifically you need to bring the Infernal Infantry or things like Umbral Guardians or anything else. You might bring Ragna and a couple Horrors.
Yeah.
So that you can run now one of these battle group focused casters like Kara, bring a bunch of Jacks like Kara like to do, and then back them up with Soulless models so that you get power up and then you also get Accumulator, making her even more efficient.
Yeah.
I think it's a potentially too powerful ability.
Yeah.
But I also think it is very engaging and I think it is very rewarding and does definitely say run Infernals and Infernal Infantry with this army so that the theme is coming through and you're actually doing what it's intended to do.
Words of the Old Faith got some new models added to it. Not new models, but some more models added to it.
Real fast, going back to our old grimy priest, Zeno asks on Twitch, so he shield guards with his mace? He shield guards with his face.
Yeah, he's a face guard. He just leans into it. Maybe his coat. Maybe he flails his coat out really big.
Hunter Dominique says, any reason why the Thornfall and Will Work for Food themes only allow scouts as the only large base solo that can be free as opposed to allowing all large base non-character solos except Archons to be free just to help future proofing? We specifically called out the Freed Scouts because of future proofing.
Yeah.
So that we obviously can't talk about what's coming, but that decision is very deliberate, and that is the only large base solo we want those themes to have access to on purpose. Daniel Jones, Hearts Darkness spell benefit changing to upkeeps for free on Construct and Solus models helps give them a better benefit, encourages Infernal Infantry and the Jackcasters. Cool.
That's some good feedback.
Yeah.
Write that down somewhere, and it's not just the chat.
Matthew Goodale says, every time you've said, I think this is powerful, or any version of that, the model has subsequently been nerfed. Why go through the hoops? If you don't like it, just change it. Well, because on the dev team, we have different opinions about things. And sometimes I think things are weak and people think things are powerful. And definitely not everything I think is too powerful has been nerfed. There are some things that have gone through their dynamic updates I was concerned about that have come out. But I figure it's worth it to let you know where we're coming from and what we're concerned about, so that when you test, you know what we want you to look at, instead of just doing it on purpose and not really letting you get involved. Because the point of community integrated development is to have you integrated in the development. So if I say, I think this is too strong, I'm just kind of being honest with you, and definitely doesn't mean that it's always going to get nerfed.
Yeah.
I could think of one dude with a bird that is proof that not everything I think is too strong gets nerfed.
Sure. But also, we like to test at slightly above just so that we can make sure. Because we talk internally all the time about stuff, and often our conversation is this too strong? And we play it 10 times and we're like, no, it's not. It's fine.
Matthew follows up with, but I'm me, so just throat punch him and do what I want anyway. I would never throat punch Oz.
Plus,
I love this
that
man.
wouldn't accomplish much.
I would definitely not throat punch Oz.
Sure.
Everyone else is on the table, though. All right, let's move on to Warriors of the Old Faith.
Warriors of the Old Faith got some additional models added to it. We added paladins, including paladin warcasters. So that theme got a little bit wider with what models could be in it than just guys on horses.
It added Durst. Now, I don't actually know yet if I'm bothered by that. Let me explain why.
Sure.
It was brought up to bring up Durst, and I thought about it for a while, and I was like, well, it's safe to test in CID.
Yeah.
But it's going to potentially be really strong. Because Durst backed up by Clamjacks, backed up by Choir, like, Durst has deceleration and Bulwark.
Yeah.
Now, the def doesn't really matter, but, walking up, but Bulwark's a good spell on him, if nothing else. And walking up behind a line of Clamjacks with decel, and then you pop feet when you need to, and you're like, you just don't get to do anything this turn. And we knew what that did in Protectorate with Protectorate Jacks, but there were no Armor 25 Jacks in Protectorate.
Yeah.
So, I really want to see people test out Durst.
Yeah. Super hardcore Durst list. Yeah. But the other change we made to this is models in this army are both factions.
Yes.
Because that makes it cleaner to understand what's going on with the factions in this army.
So this matters for Steamroller.
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't, it might have had trouble with it, let me kind of explain what we're doing here. In Steamroller, you pick a faction, and then you pick theme forces available to your faction.
Yeah.
Now,
when you're building an army in general in War Machine, you pick a faction first, and then you move from there.
So for these theme forces that are allowing these cross-faction models, we wanted there to be a benefit that indicates what the faction is, and this applies to when you do your Steamroller pairing. So Hearts of Darkness says all models are Infernal models. Therefore, it is an Infernal theme force. Flames in the Darkness says all models are the faction of your caster. So that is a morphing theme force.
Yep.
If you go and you're playing Signar at Steamroller and you bring Heavy Metal and you decide to play Flame in the Darkness, you can only bring Signar casters in that. If you brought Zerkova, it becomes a Khador theme force, and therefore you can't play it.
Yeah.
Because it's not a Signar theme force. If you took Cross, it becomes a mercenary theme force, and therefore you can't play it. Warriors of the Old Faith, the first rule says all models become Khador and Protectorate models.
Yep.
Simultaneously. Therefore, no matter which model you're playing, they are all Khador and they are all Protectorate. So no matter if you show up to an SR and you're playing Khador or you're playing Protectorate, you can take Warriors of the Old Faith and you have access to all of the models available in it, no matter which caster you pick, unlike Warriors of the or Flame of the Darkness.
Yeah.
So the three of them operate kind of differently, with Hearts of Darkness and Warriors of the Old Faith being similar in that no matter which caster you bring, you are still one of these factions, period. And Flame of the Darkness being the morpher, effectively.
I just want to highlight something. If you're only in Twitch, you got to see someone miscalled this Warriors of the Old Fish, which I just love the idea.
Warriors of the Old Fish?
Warriors of the Old Fish. So it was a legitimate question from Gabriel Dave, but he accidentally typoed fish instead of faith, and that makes something that I think is amazing.
Warriors of the Old Fish is the first theme force for Merpandas, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's happening.
It says, the question is, are we concerned that people will say in Steamroller they're playing Khador,
Yes.
and they will only take Protectorate models in this Warriors of the Old Faith list, but they will be a Khador theme force because this says they are.
That is technically possible, but very weird to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do it, but then you're not really getting a ton out of this theme force. Like, I
Yeah.
think there's going to be Khadoran options, even if you're like 95% Protectorate.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if you didn't take a single Khador model in your army list. You can. Will it be confusing? It's definitely new ground. Steamroller 2019 will probably have a call out specifically in it, a little chapter under our army building called Oblivion Theme Forces that just sort of reiterates and explains exactly how these three
Yeah.
work, so that there
Yeah.
is no confusion and people know exactly what's going on. Aside from that, there were a couple other minor changes. Heavy metal. We decided to sort of change the Merc Solo availability to heavy metal, so they would have access to some Archons. Secret Masters got a change, so they couldn't spam free Archons.
Yeah.
And as we talked about earlier, Thornfall Alliance and Will Work for Food both got their Afrits back.
Yeah, that was a weird thing that happened. That wasn't entirely intentional. So we put it back in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's get to a couple of questions before we call
Last
the
few
hour.
questions.
So, and by the way, if we've missed any of your questions, the chats have been scrolling. We had a lot to cover. So, apologies if we missed anything really important, but hit us up. We've got about 5-ish minutes to answer a couple questions. Runeroy says, Khadoran Paladin Design Space opened?
Well, I mean,
I don't think so.
Durst is kind of already riding the line between Man of War and not Man of War. Armor, steelhead kind of thing.
Yep.
So
Jacob Collins says, can you comment on adding Archons to themes and or having Archons count towards free points? We don't necessarily want the Archons to count towards free points, but we are reviewing what Archons are going to want to be in which themes. That doesn't mean something necessarily will change, but we are looking at where it could based on a lot of people's feedbacks. And obviously, we want people to be able to pick up these Archons and then play them in their armies. So if something's unnecessarily restricted, there's a lot of feedback on the Void Archon, specifically about this right now. We'll see what makes sense and what we can do.
Tony, can you scroll the Facebook chat back up like 2 or 3 people?
Greylord Dave says, can I put wings on Terracon and use it as a Void Archon? You can do whatever you like to in your own home. You can do whatever you want to with your friends and even at your local game store. I would say if you go to some events that use the conversion policy, you might have trouble with that one.
Okay, so Greg Webster is asking, will we be getting fiction explaining some of the characters that hopped to Infernals and Thamrites because some of them don't make sense? So, Hearts of Darkness is not a canonical thing. In the setting, those casters are not confirmed Infernalist. They're bad guys now, like everything has changed. That is more of some of these characters have reasons, or all these characters have some reasons why they might decide to work with Infernals, and it's a very what-if kind of theme force. So it's not saying that literally Kara Sloan is evil now and she's an Infernalist and blah, 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 blah. It's saying that she has reasons to possibly change sides because she wants something.
Yeah.
And Mort Nebra is the same way. Mort Nebra has already, in the story, went from Convergence to Crix. So like it's understandable that she might also see value in working with the Infernals. The things that are getting Thamrite on them, it's more likely because those are actual canonical changes that are real and in the story.
Yep. Tony, can you scroll up Facebook chat? We're going to have the rapid fire because there's a lot of questions coming. So let's rapid fire through some questions. One more, go up a little bit more, Tony. Right there. And then, are models affected by the Soul War changes? The Nis Healer fair game for feedback? You can include a little bit in your battle report, but definitely don't focus on it. Can devs comment on the Excretor ruling on the Soulless damage buff? I'd have to look up to see exactly what you're talking about right now, Scott, so I'm not 100% sure at the moment. I need to look at the Infernal forums. Reen asks, are there plans for a fluff compendium? Not that I can announce. Tamaz says, is the Lord of the Feast nerf coming before WTC, and what is it? It's called the Primal Archon. Refugee says, will Mirage be losing the center flag? The Steamroller 2019 CID starts in about 2 weeks, and Mirage no longer exists. Let's see.
On that fluff compendium thing, the Oblivion book does have fiction in it. So there will be story elements and model descriptions and stuff like that, more like an older anthology book kind of entry in Oblivion.
Chase Kerr says, is there a possibility that some Archon faction choices change? Probably not the factions. I mean, we may change certain theme things, and maybe the factions they work for, that's a lower possibility, and maybe some partisan stuff, but not necessarily. A lot of people asking about Mirage. Yes, Mirage is not going to survive into 2019. Mirage is gone, Standoff is gone, and the Pit 2 is gone. They're being replaced by 3 completely new scenarios, which you'll get to see in a couple weeks.
And none of the scenario names have numbers in them now, right?
No, Recon 2. Zeno asks, main rule changes? We can't talk about those just yet, but there'll be some stuff coming in that updated digest, and we'll be announcing more of those.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that more. Yeah. We're not going to do anything massive.
Voila Bearable says, as someone who got out of the game right at the start of Mark III, what the hell is happening? You're watching a dev chat right now.
That's a very wide-ranging question.
Yeah.
Vola Bearable.
If you've never seen this before, what you're watching is a dev chat. We do them every Wednesday. And one thing we started was something called Community Integrated Development, where we basically beta test new rules with the community and let them give feedback before they come final. Every week we talk about those updates and things that's going on. And right now we're talking about the Oblivion CID, which is the next big narrative book campaign we're putting out that sees the arrival of the Infernals finally, and sees the which are effectively demons, and the Archons, which are effectively different gods' angels coming down to stop them, as well as like traditional monster hunters and everyone trying to rise against the Infernals. So there's a lot of really cool stuff coming. That is the TLDR.
Yeah.
Oblivion at lock and load, Oswald Dog asks, probably not at lock and load. I would not expect it. Talion dynamic update, A2D asks.
Soon.
Okay.
It's going through editing and everything, and we can't make promises, but it'll be soon.
Okay. And I think that we've covered a lot of the questions, so let's go ahead and just...
There's a bunch of random ones in there.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and call it for right now.
Yeah.
So everybody, thanks for hanging out with us for an hour. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Jordan Lamb for Get Your Paint On. So if you want to watch some hobby tips and tricks and talk to Jordan about painting, I'll be there as well. I haven't been on the show for a while.
Yeah.
And they needed a third mic, so I'm jumping on. I'll be there with you, Tony. And obviously, we'll see you all next week. Please go to cid.privateerpress.com if you are inclined to playtest Void Archon, Dunya Archon, the Hermit. So probably the top 3 to get some feedback on. But obviously, please test everything that you can. And we'll see you all next week.
And you finish with a big sneeze.
I didn't know the sneeze is totally gone.
Man. And also, people always ask the shirts. This is an old Lock and Load shirt from 2014. So you can't get this shirt unless you have a time machine, or you find a friend who has one, or something. You know.
Don't mess with time.
I'm not gonna.
Bye, everybody.
I'm not gonna suggest.
Don't mess with time.
Does anything illegal, but.